Thank you so much for listening this week to the WiseWorks podcast. We are here on YouTube. We have 2 podcasts each week, and we are also on Spotify. Every single episode audio only, and then we also on Friday nights at 10 p.m. we come out with audio only exclusive to Spotify midnight special podcast, and that runs a little bit longer than these ones.
So, and I'm pretty sure this is the right one. Last week on the midnight special, we talked with John, Mark, and Wyatt about hobbies.
No.
Which one was that?
It was just us two talking.
No, that's this week coming out.
No.
Oh, yes. I'm confused. I'm confused.
No.
My week's off.
It's all right.
So on the midnight special last week, we talked about, we didn't have any guests. It was just me and Joseph. Mm-hmm. We talked about our hobbies. We talked about things we do outside of WiseWorks.
And we talked a little bit about our backstory and whatnot. Yeah.
We talked about backstory on how we what we were doing during the evolution of WiseWorks outside of WiseWorks. Yeah. Job-wise, mostly.
So, just really helping you get to know us and see some of our interests and things we've dabbled in.
Yeah, and things you don't hear and we don't talk about on this podcast. Yeah. So that's a little interesting topic. You can go listen to that because I found it interesting. I like the midnight special because it feels more relaxed. We talk about things, we can talk about whatever, and it's a good time. So you guys should definitely go listen to it.
Yeah, just a reminder, that's not here on YouTube. It's not going to be. Spotify. It's on Spotify.
Spotify exclusive.
Yeah, so don't think that YouTube is the end-all platform. It's not. Not for us, not for everyone. Thunder.
Oh, I don't know if you can hear that good in the mic, but that was loud.
That was good. It is storming outside, so we might catch a little bit. This feels like a midnight special.
It does a little bit.
So and also just want to let you know to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the Spotify page. Mm-hmm.
You can follow it.
Spotify page. We would really appreciate it. Thank you. So let's get into the topic for this week.
We're going to talk about exploring the abandoned parts of
the world.
Yes.
The parts that we've seen.
Yeah. Exploring abandoned houses, buildings, things. Mm-hmm. Which, before we get started, there's an interesting story about a friend we have, Tim Gordon. He was exploring an abandoned building, and he decided to climb up it. Outside of the building. And he fell. How far did he fall?
About
it was like
30 feet.
30 feet. How many stories?
I think it was like 2 or 3. It's 30 feet. The stories are different because stories do depend on size. Yeah. Different stories, but he said it was around 30 feet, and he landed on his back. He landed in a little bit of mud about 2 feet away from a concrete slab.
That's crazy.
And he wasn't injured. I think he did have a little bit something wrong with his chest, and he did have a really small section
his lungs
of his lung collapsed a little bit. Not too serious. You say lungs collapse. Well, that's pretty intense.
A lot of people.
He did go to the hospital.
Yeah.
He's alive and well.
You got to be careful when you explore abandoned places.
Yes,
indeed. Especially if it's like rotten or it could be unstable. So dangerous.
Yeah, it's extremely fun. Mm-hmm. It's extremely rewarding, but also it's very dangerous. And in certain places, it can be illegal or trespassing and you not realize it. You know what I mean? And so you have to try to be aware and, let the cards fall where they may. But also, it's not necessarily recommended, but I feel like anyone who takes a risk in the name of experience and adventure tends to do something of this nature.
So, exploring, one place I remember exploring myself. Do you remember when we were younger, it wasn't on our property, like behind our property in a kind of a cow field, I guess is what it was. There was, house, an old abandoned house, an old abandoned barn.
Old style.
Old style.
There was right when they first
there was
started cutting logs.
Yeah,
kinda
like
style.
three buildings all together.
They had a well.
Yeah.
There was a well in the ground
Yeah.
that went down into the ground, not like a modern well. It was like a hole in the ground.
Yeah. And we explored that. I remember we would hang out there a little bit. It wasn't like a significant amount of time.
Well,
We eventually just stopped going.
in the more rural areas of the South, especially, but I'm sure most places, you go out in the country area and you get on these really big farm or property lands that random people own. There's a lot of there's so many cases where you find that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that's been there for multiple hundreds of years, and maybe it's even so old there's only like a chimney left. You know what I mean? Things have just rot, and it's just a pile of wood, and they just rot and fall apart. And so it's like that so many places, and the area we lived in growing up primarily, there was a lot of them. I mean,
Yeah.
there was one in particular that was more what's the word?
Abandoned?
Inspectable, I guess. I don't know.
Intact.
Intact, I guess, yeah. Enough for
Intact.
us to enjoy the process of discovering it or, looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, that place was really interesting. We
Mhm.
went there. And then I only remember, like, exploring abandoned places one other time with our friend Seth.
Mm-hmm.
One night, we're like, there's an abandoned house here. Let's go to it and just look in it. There wasn't much there. I mean, it just kind of
Yeah.
destroyed a little bit,
Mhm.
and we didn't find anything. But
But what was a good memory from it? Was there anything real interesting that
it was
happened?
cold
It
and
was cold.
raining.
How did you guys get in?
I mean, we just went in the front door. It was all open.
It was all open.
Yeah.
That's like that's half the game when it comes to exploring abandoned houses. Most of the time they're locked.
Mm.
Most of the time it takes a bit to get inside. Once you get inside, then you can explore and you're fine. But a lot of times it's hard to get in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Without breaking a window. And, unless you're trying to get in to escape the weather or something, or you're homeless, most people like us, we're not trying to break anything. We're just going in to look around and then leave,
Yeah.
But
That you had a story you wanted to tell.
I mean, I had two larger exploring stories. Both of them were with Tim, actually.
Mm.
And Tim is definitely more into this
Adventurous.
style of adventure. You know what I mean? I mean, Tim is more adventurous. But he...
It's because you're an old man. You don't want to do anything. I'm kidding.
Yeah, screw you. Anyways, I was with Tim on both occasions. I won't go into detail with the first one, but basically the first one, it was like this really big abandoned cotton mill
Yeah.
downtown in the town near where we were. Abandoned in the sense that the factory closed and they had this property that was probably owned by the city.
Mhm.
And they didn't know what to do with all of it,
Yeah.
and so it's just this huge old cotton mill that's just left to be explored and to go see all the nooks and crannies.
I don't think it's
and
there
climb
to
on
be
stuff.
explored, but yeah.
I mean, that's what people were doing. I mean, I went in there twice. One time with Tim where we went all through it. One time with Seth where we were there for like 5 minutes, and then we left because there was a police car like going around the block,
Mm.
a good ways off, but we didn't feel comfortable with a police car so close, so we decided to bounce.
Yes. Crazy crack dads, white boys.
But
don't
there's a
wanna
lot
get
of
arrested.
graffiti. There was a lot of graffiti. In fact, there was actually one time, sewer systems, not necessarily sewer systems, but drain pipes, the big ones.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're big and they can be like little rooms,
Yeah.
or you can climb through them and go to another room. Well, there at that same area, there was a really big series of tunnels of those drain pipes there that didn't have much water in them.
And
so
the cotton place?
it wasn't in it, but it was outside it, right
Mhm.
outside of it on the same property, like right next to the building.
Yeah.
And I guess it just goes through the property to drain water so the whole like field that it was in doesn't flood or whatever, you know.
That's
it's a big
interesting.
flat
I've never
field.
been there myself, and I kind of know where you're talking about, but kind of not. I've heard a lot of people talking about in that same town area over by no, we've never been there, so it's not incriminating for me to say where it is. Over by Winthrop. If you know where we're talking about, Rock Hill, South Carolina. I mean, who cares?
Well, they're gonna
We don't
know
live
what
there
I
anymore.
did.
We don't even live there
All
anymore. But they're over by Winthrop. I've heard a lot of people say there's an abandoned building.
Maybe
Over there.
You're right. I haven't been over there either. Yeah, I haven't been over there by Winthrop. It was just that one spot, and then another spot that was old houses that were very run down, but they were still houses. They weren't like a mill or anything. So this is the more interesting one. So there was just a street that has a bunch of old abandoned houses on it, right? And so just like it was afternoon. Like it was getting to dusk, but it wasn't there yet. So it was like daylight, but we were behind the houses and the street wasn't busy and all different stuff. So we were just kind of like, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to entertain ourselves. So me and Tim, we were just hanging out, and we decided to, explore a little bit and also have conversation about life and stuff while we do it. It's kind of the way it went. We have to do stuff in order to connect. But pretty much we went in this one that was really boring, there wasn't much. Then we got to this other one that all of it was locked. Except for a tiny little window on the back side that looked to be like where the kitchen was.
Yeah.
It's just a small little window, and it was closed. But Tim, we just were walking around to see if any window was opened at all, and the window was unlocked. So we got in there through that tiny window, and it was a struggle because there's not enough room on the camera. But I mean, it was a good ways up off the ground,
like feet wide. How off the ground?
It was probably
8 feet off the ground.
It was probably about 7 feet off the ground.
Okay.
It was about. It was. I mean, maybe not quite. Maybe like 6.5. It was just barely above my head.
Okay.
And there was like a little wall next to it. I could get my foot on, and then I kind of climbed my way up with my hands to where I could get my foot on the ledge.
Yeah.
And then pull myself over, and then somehow going like one leg in, shoulder, head, try to get through this tiny little window. Tim did it real quick. It took me like 20 minutes to get inside.
20 minutes?
Yeah. But we did it, and we went all over the place, and this place was different, man. This place had an attic, and in the attic was a bunch of like old books.
Clowns?
No clowns.
Okay, good. No clowns.
No clowns.
No dolls?
But I will say, as soon as I got into this place, I was like, this place feels a lot more creepy than the place we were just at.
Yeah.
It feels more creepy than going through that cotton mill at night.
Yeah.
And we were in there during the day. And I was like, this house feels like something from a horror film. It was a brick house.
Definitely.
It wasn't too small. It wasn't like a mobile home or anything. It was an established house, probably over 100 years old.
Yeah. No, you didn't find anybody. Nobody was living in there.
Nobody was living there. No one was living there in a long time. The place.
I'm saying, like, sometimes in abandoned places you find like a homeless guy.
Well,
living
there
there.
was something living there.
For real?
Yes. And you kind of know where the story's going because
I do.
Yeah,
I
told you.
Yeah, I've heard the story.
I am recounting it, but when we first went in, I was like, this place feels different. First of all, there was an attic. Not many houses in the South have attics.
Yeah.
Well, not ones that are built to go up into regularly with a staircase.
Yeah.
And the whole attic was like wood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It had a creepy vibe to it.
How did you get up in the attic? Was there like steps to it?
We just go around the house and open doors. And then we found a door with a staircase upward.
To an attic.
to an attic.
It wasn't like, because a lot of places have that pull down thing where you pull it down and it's like a ladder.
We weren't motivated enough to do all that, probably, because we know those kind of attics is just like insulation and crawl space style. You know what I mean? This was a walk upstairs. There's a window up there. It was an attic.
A window to see, so the clown can look out of?
Dude, I'm telling you, this attic was creepier than... It was as if you went up into our grandma's attic in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But it wasn't our grandma, and so you don't know what was up there.
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff up there.
There's a lot of weird stuff, but you kind of trusted it. Kind of.
Not
even all the time.
Do you remember? There was like a weird doll up there.
There was a lot of
scary.
Well, it's old-fashioned
doll, weird doll,
toys and stuff. It's a creepy space. But
what
it was
living
like
there? Because we got to get to this.
All right. So we noticed there was a few books and things upstairs, but we didn't want to hang out because it did feel creepy. We had seen too many horror films, and so it just had a vibe to it. Tim made a comment at some point about probably there's a basement, because it seemed like the house had a basement. And
attic and a basement? Wow, this place has got everything.
And the next scariest thing to an attic is a freaking basement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we were getting ready to leave, and right next to the kitchen where we came in at, there was a little door.
Oh no.
And Tim opened it up.
And there
it was.
A rat?
No.
Oh.
A staircase.
Oh. Was there any rats?
Going
Did
down.
you ever find any rats?
I haven't ever seen any rats.
No, that one time. We'll come back to that story. I want to tell that funny story.
Well,
you know what I'm talking about?
You keep taking us out of the story by asking questions that are off topic.
Okay.
But there was a staircase going downward into the earth. It was dark. We had our phones. We have a light on our phones.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was no electricity working in the house. So we turned our phones on. We started flashing it around. It looked like a fairly big basement. Probably a 2-room basement. So Tim starts going down the steps, and we both have our lights out. He's pointing down, I'm pointing into the room, and all we're seeing is just like, a little bit. It's a bigger room, so you can't illuminate the whole thing. And we get about almost to the bottom of the steps. Tim turns his light over, freezes, and then I didn't see what Tim was seeing, but I start hearing this accelerating towards us. And Tim freaks out. He starts running up the steps, but I'm in his way, so he's jumping on top of me. And I react like a second and a half after he does.
Well, I gotta say, why is Tim going first?
It's because he's more adventurous. Of course, I'm more scared than Tim is. There's no shame in that. I've always been a little bit of a wimp in comparison to Tim. And we book it up the steps, right? Tim says, I saw something moving. It wasn't like our size. It wasn't a human, but it wasn't small. It wasn't a rat. It was like slightly bigger than raccoon size, probably. But it was dark. We only had our lights. He only saw it for a second, and it was running after us. So we thought maybe it's like a rabid raccoon or something,
or a possum. Maybe it
or
was
a possum. And I was like, when something catches you off guard, your senses trick you. So we were like, we should take another look, because I'm sure it's not as bad as we thought. And I remember the second time we went down, we only got halfway this time.
Yeah.
And it started running again towards us. And I remember vividly that second time thinking those footsteps are a lot heavier than a raccoon, because a raccoon scurries. This sounded like 2 feet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it sounded bigger than I noticed the first time. And And we ran up again because it's like it's charging us. You know what I mean? It may not be big, but we don't know what it is. But it keeps charging us from the basement. We're like, first of all, how are they in the basement? There's no windows in the basement. There's, as far as we know, there's no like tunnels out of the basement.
Something got stuck in there.
Something's down there, and for some reason, it's still alive. You know?
A clown?
It wasn't a clown. It's like a baby clown. Well, we got really scared, and we left. And all we could do was just talk about this crazy thing. We didn't even see what it was. And because we were frightened, man.
So
the
it could have
whole
been a
house had a
clown.
vibe. Well,
You went back.
I didn't go back.
Okay. Too scared of clowns.
I mean, Tim and his younger brother Isaac did go back, and we did get confirmation. I feel like I had to say what it was.
Yeah.
Hopefully you enjoyed the story. It's kind of an interesting ending, but it's not like there wasn't like a demon or something down there.
No clowns?
It might have been like demon possessed. What it was Isaac, his younger brother, and Tim agreed, but Tim didn't give me as much detail as Isaac. He said they went back because Tim wanted to find out what it was, and Isaac heard us tell the story. Isaac said that it was a fairly large, mutated-looking chicken.
A chicken?
Yeah, it was a chicken.
So it's a Gollum chicken?
He didn't describe in detail, but he said it didn't look like a normal chicken. And I don't think it was like an emu or something. What's an emu?
I don't even know.
An emu is like a middle-sized ostrich. I mean, I don't know.
Why did you bring up an emu? That's
I'm
weird.
just saying, or it wasn't like a turkey or something. You know, they're not. They know the difference between different birds. He said it was a chicken, and it didn't look exactly like a normal chicken.
That's weird. It probably was just like missing feathers or something. I don't know.
Have you ever known a chicken to charge you?
If it wants to get out, it probably was trying to get out of the basement. That could have been it.
But it wasn't like coming after us. If it was like hungry and wanted to get out, it would keep coming, and we would have saw it the first time. But it would charge us and then stop when we started running. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe we scared it. That was a strange encounter.
Yeah.
Wish I could have saw that chicken, man. But the first time, when all you're thinking about is I don't know what's down there, and you're scared out of your mind because it's creeped you out, you have to make a big decision on if you're going to be brave and risk it. And after the second try, me and Tim, on that day when I was with him, we decided not to try. It took Tim a few days to muster up the courage and go with his brother Isaac.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay.
But yeah, that's the story.
So
I can talk more about similar stories, but that's probably the time we have for today.
it is, yeah. We're hitting about 25 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching.
Yep. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube. Go follow us on Spotify, where our midnight special is.
And the audio version of these podcasts.
Yeah. That's we're over there having a good time, and
A good old time.
good old time. Comes out every Friday at 10 o'clock. 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
So thanks for watching, and have a good day.
Crazy correct, daddies.